Two, one, and we are live. Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's CJ with Rogue 420, and I am back today with two absolute rock stars in the advocacy in Canada. It's the talk of the world right now that Canada has legalized. And just so you know, that migrant caravan that's coming from Central America, they're not stopping here in the United States. They're going north. They're going to Canada, where all the fun is right now. So I'm very excited today to have Marijane Baker and also Stephen Stairs. And again, two rock stars. They've been featured in numerous articles, really kind of, they helped push Canada where it is today in terms of advocacy. But before I continue, I want to go through just one-on-one. Guys, tell a little bit more about yourselves for our audience, how they can learn more about your work, how they can follow you. So I'll start with you, Marijane, please.
Okay, so let's see. Marijane Baker. I like to add my voice pretty much anywhere I can where I feel there's an injustice. I do a little bit of baking, educating, advocacy. Yeah, pretty much if you check me out online, you can see I do a little bit of growing, ACMPR patient. There's lots to learn, awesome. And we only have a little time, so I'll let you introduce Stephen.
Okay, very good. And Stephen, again, created probably the first big hemp festival in Canada. I'm excited to learn more about that as well. You got some other events coming up, but Stephen, go for it, man.
Thanks for having me on, Carlos, by the way. And Marijane, I love that smiley face above your head. Every time I see it, I just want to get really baked and just chill with some green guys. It's I don't know.
I might add, that's Buddy from Advanced Nutrients.
Even
if
funnier.
You've ever seen Big Bud? It's an amazing product. Yeah, so that's who that is.
Okay.
Just wanted to add that. So go ahead. Sorry.
That's cool. Advance. No, it's all good. I support Advance. We're good. I just sidetracked, man. I'm a stoner.
No worries. We don't have to be so formal, right? This is our gig. This is our show. Yeah. Whatever we want to do. There's no rules.
Whoa. Okay, don't say that. No. So Stephen Stairs. I mean, Carlos and has already kind of given me a pretty good precursor introduction. Legally blind, cannabis advocate. Been heavily involved in the politics on a provincial, federal, and municipal level in my city of Winnipeg. Cannabis through and through. I've got there's a vote green flag up behind me. I don't know if you can see that.
Woohoo! Yep, I see that.
But generally, I'm eat, sleep, and breathe cannabis. I have a very supportive wife who's also a cannabis advocate, so that keeps me going because got to have a support. And other than that, that's just me. I mean, I'm an open book. So find me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, email, phone. You can probably do this Hangout stuff if I understand how it works at the end of this. But just call me. I mean, honestly, I'm open book. If you got a question, whether or not you're in, Mississauga or, you're in Madagascar, man, you can call me. We'll chat. It's all good.
Awesome. Well, I do want to start also by letting our audience know we did an interview prior to Canada going, mainstream, taking everything legalization effort. And I really screwed up. I had the interview. I was doing too much at the same time. And I wanted to run it through the leveler just so the audio was nice. And long story short, I adjusted the wrong button and I took out all the audio altogether. And I felt like a fool whenever I uploaded. Marijane sent me a text that there's only video on that interview you just posted. so anyway, so long story short, we're back now. So we're post legalization. So why don't you guys share a little bit? Stephen, I believe that you camped out overnight, so that was kind of cool for you to hang out and wait till. So let's talk about whatever you guys feel like discussing. If you guys want to talk about the day after, what's currently going on in Canada right now with the legalization.
MJ, you want to go first? Go first.
Well, I'll let you go first, but I just wanted to say it's really funny that all the things that we discussed the week before legalization has come true, less than a week after legalization. And we're going to talk about that stuff after, but go ahead, Stephen. I know you got something to say there.
That's a really good point that you make. So, man, we're giving away the whole show already. I love this. Okay. So,
well, no, they missed the first part. So go ahead.
That's true. Okay, fair enough. So I camped out, which was hilarious. I don't know for you American viewers out there. I mean, Winnipeg is like North Dakota. Okay. So imagine Fargo, North Dakota in the middle of winter. That's what Winnipeg is like in winter. So it gets cold, it's freezing, there's blizzards, all that kind of stuff. October, not so cold yet, but we're getting there. So it was a little bit of an adventure to camp out, I'll tell you that. But it was good. I wanted to be the first person in line to buy pot in Manitoba, which was, just a moment in my own life that I wanted to be part of.
Absolutely. That's huge, dude. That's huge.
It was pretty cool. I got a tour of the store the night before, which was great. And I slept in front of it. And then, I'm not going to lie, I had cops coming up to me all night because I was camped out, and they would roll up and they wanted to see kind of what was going on and check things out. And, it was all over the news and stuff. But the cops were really actually super supportive of cannabis legalization. Awesome. Super supportive all night. So it was great.
Yeah, huge movement. And I mean, it actually captured everyone's attention. So I'm really happy for you guys, especially that like an individual for the most part can grow now if they choose to do so without the fear of the law knocking down the door and everything. So Marijane, what's been your perspective so far? You guys were featured in quite a bit of articles talking about your efforts, people seeking your input. So why don't you share a little bit more information about that for us, Marijane?
Okay, so it's interesting that you say, we have the ability now to grow our own cannabis at home. However, we're still bound by certain rules when it comes to that sort of thing, like where we can purchase our cannabis seeds or cuttings. They have to come from a legal source. And I know it's different from province to province. And I actually put together like a spreadsheet of where it was legal to purchase in each province. And I noticed that the province that I live in, it only gives you one option to purchase legally, which is online. We have no stores right now. And if you don't have a primary place of residence or a credit card or there's a few other things that if you don't have, you can't actually order from the cannabis store. And then, of course, we get into Canada Post going on strike, so people not getting their product. And then we get into, it's funny you were saying the migrant vehicle is coming, right through America, and it's going to come right up to Canada to get their legal cannabis. But I will tell you, we're dry already, but that's just legal cannabis.
I saw that in the news. Yeah, that that you guys are running out.
Oh, it's insane. They're saying, oh, we didn't expect it to be this much of a demand. And people like Stephen and I, we had this discussion with you last week, and we were going, there's not going to be enough. It's only a matter of time. We're all taking bets. When are they going to run out?
So just to interject on that one, hilarious comment is that Tweed and the big companies, right? The Auroras and all those kinds. Those are the guys who were running out of pot. But here in Manitoba, the Delta 9, locally made and Manitoba stuff, they got lots of supply. They're still bringing stuff out onto the shelves. So it's really kind of funny that you've got this interesting dynamic across the country where the giant big boys apparently can't feed enough pot, but the little guys are yeah, we still got weed. What's up? Want to buy some? It's really interesting, man. But Ontario is a great example, though. Like you're saying, Marijane, you guys have what, 12 million people, something like that. Only online stores, and Ontario's what is it? Ontario Cannabis Store. That's what they're called, right?
Yeah.
What was it, that the whole debacle with their shipments and all that stuff? Worst dealer I've ever had were the reviews.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a hilarious review. Worst dealer ever. Super fun.
Well, it's true. If you got that sort of service from your quote unquote black market dealer, you wouldn't have that issue. You'd be able to go back to him and say, look, you either sold me crappy product, or it's not the right amount, or I'm not paying $80 for that. You know what I mean? You can't do that with the government, and you don't get to see it, and you don't get to smell it. And, there's so many things there that need to be fixed.
So yeah, that weirds me out, though. So in Marijane, when supposedly these brick and mortar stores are going to come out in Ontario, they're saying that they may not even be ready till what, April, right?
Yeah, that's when they'll actually legally be able to
Are they going to allow at that point, once there are brick and mortars, for you guys to have sensory bars like we have here in Manitoba, where you can go up, you see the product, it's in a little glass container, it's got like a magnifying glass that we can like look through. It's got a light. It's got like a pole. Okay, that's awesome then. But you just got to get there. Okay, so I'll blame Doug Ford for that.
I hope that that's the way they're going to do it. I know we mentioned last time we spoke, I live out by a native reserve, and on that reserve, there's over like 40 or 50 different dispensaries. Now, some of them are recreational, some of them are medicinal, and they're run differently. There are some places where you go in and, like you're saying, Stephen, there's the counter, and it's like more like a retail model where you have all the jars on the counter and you can see and like open the jars and smell them. And then you go into other ones where it's like a dispensary where there's a window and there's the bud tender, and they'll show you what you want to see, but there's no little jars. You don't get to, so there is a difference, and both ways you still get to see the product. But I heard stories about a long time ago when the liquor store first opened up, and you had to go in and write down your order on a piece of paper, that you actually couldn't have access to the bottles.
Well, that's how it is right now in the liquor store or in the cannabis stores, because that's what you do. You go up to the one bar here in Manitoba. They they tell you what they have in stock and all that stuff. And there's a big LED TV in the background that has like what's in stock and the prices and that kind of stuff. And then you go to like the bud expert, which is that person who you're talking to, and you're like, oh, I want a quarter of this and a quarter of that, and then they give you a little slip, and then you walk over to the counter over here, and then a cashier goes and then gives it to you. Yeah, it's like that exactly right now. It's weird. It's a very weird system.
See, and I don't think most Americans know and understand that most of these so far are all government-ran dispensaries. Is that correct, or government managed? How am I saying that right? Is it how are they?
Yes
how
and
are
no.
they? Okay, can you break that down a little bit and share? Are they going to allow like individuals to own dispensaries as well? What's going on with that?
Okay, so looking at the chart that I made, it looks like there is 4 of the provinces that have private licensed stores as well as online.
Yeah. So not
the rest
government
are
monopoly.
all government. Yeah. So 4 of them are private.
Okay, well that's good.
Ontario is looking at privatizing some retail locations. So
yeah, because there's got to be some competition, right? I mean, it's not good for just one centrally maintained system in place to manage all that.
Well, if you look at here in Manitoba, it's even weirder. I mean, like the government has a stranglehold on the market supply, but they don't have anything to do with selling it on a retail level. So like a producer in Manitoba produces pot, or they could be outside of Manitoba, it doesn't matter, but they produce pot, then they sell it to the Liquor, Cannabis, and Gaming Authority. Then then that gaming authority applies taxes and markup to it, and then sells it back to the producer, in this case, who would be like Delta 9, for example, or Tweed. Okay. And then that person then sells it back to that company, then sells it to the public. So it's the government has their hold on it, whether or not they have a brick and mortar or they're just like, nah, pay us our fee.
Okay.
So they're getting your pockets in there, man, either way.
Right. So what's that doing in terms of like the black market, the gray market, whatever you want to call it? I mean, obviously it's probably still just as thriving, right? I mean, there's only so much the legal side can probably keep up with the market.
A friend of mine made a comment to me the other day he's like a black market guy, right? Whatever you want to call him, gray market, whatever. Yeah. He's got a very successsul dial-a-dealer virtually business. He has a route every day he shows up to. If you're on the route, you just GPS it and you get your. Anyway, the guy makes like $40,000 a month. Okay. He's a very well-to-do business. He's got business cards and stickers and keychains and all that stuff, right? He's trying to go legit, but he's not legit, right?
Right.
So
according to laws, yeah.
Well, and that's it. It's the laws are really the holding that's holding people back in regarding getting into this industry. Wait, where was I going with this point? Jeez. The dial-up dealer guy, right? No, so he has successfully dropped his prices even more in the past couple days, because he made a very interesting point to me that the black market, gray market, is not really competing with the legal market. The legal market's kind of over here on its own, bro.
Right.
But it's the black market, gray market guy or girl versus the other black market or gray market guy or girl. They're the ones dropping their prices, trying to make sure that they're still, pumping product out, and they're just letting the legal guys do their own thing. It's a different clientele. The majority of people who are going to stick to their black market dialer guy aren't going to go shop at the fucking store.
Right.
It's like trying to convince, hardcore Christians to become devout Muslims. It's just not going to happen, right? It's you got to switch them over, right? There's a certain population, 30% or whatever the case might be, that's always going to buy from the guy on the corner. Cool. So they're not even in the equation of the legal market. So the black market doesn't give a shit about the legal market when they still got their 30%.
Right.
They just want to maintain that, They're worried about not getting arrested and stuff. They don't care what the legal prices are.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense.
It's an interesting, weird dynamic, man, where we've got this separation. It's cool.
I think you see the same thing like here in the States, as far as like, whether it's, Colorado or Oregon. I think that still exists. I mean, it's just interesting. I guarantee you, probably from the gray market, I guarantee you the pricing is probably considerably less versus, the dispensaries and the grows. I mean, I may be wrong there, but you think that it would be with the markup and taxes and
$120 an ounce delivered to my door. Then that's same day delivery. That's not mail order, and that's like I get to, like Mary Jane says, I get to see the product. It's not like a $2 grams on some website. Like it's a dude bringing it to my door.
Yeah, and Mary Jane, you mentioned something very interesting earlier, and that's the fact that even though it's legalized and everything, as far as the banking structure and purchasing those things online, or what have people been reporting that their credit cards are getting shut down, or what's happening there as far as like online purchases?
Yeah, well, basically they're telling us not to purchase with our credit cards online if you're purchasing cannabis within Canada, because when it comes to the United States Patriot Act, that they're basically making sure that anybody who purchases cannabis or uses it or invests in it or has any ties with cannabis in Canada or the States alone, that's it. You're done. As for myself, I don't plan on visiting the States anytime soon because I don't want the hassle at the border.
Understood.
It's not worth it.
Understood. Yeah, understood. Yeah, and then you also said you had a great breakdown in terms of the provinces. So for any Americans that are wanting to do vacations now, we'll call it vacations to Canada, can you break down where's the most conservative and where are the most liberal type laws in regards to Canada?
I would say honestly, really the best place that I've seen if you want to go and visit Canada and consume cannabis would be either Nova Scotia or New Brunswick. For some reason, the East Coast has the highest amount of cannabis consumers per capita over there, and they grow amazing bud. I've got to say, I went out there for Harvest Fest in July, and I didn't see anything I was disappointed with.
No, they make great pot out there. They really do.
Yeah.
Okay, so in the first we're at a week and a half. Obviously, there's probably been no massive people driving vehicles and all that stuff. I'm sure violent crimes haven't taken over and all that kind of stuff. All the stuff that they fear about that. Okay, it's just going to lead to more illicit drugs, all this kind of stuff. But apparently, there was one minor incident, Stephen, regarding some type of. Was it a robbery or something? What, you want to break that down for us?
Oh, actually, Mary Jane might know more about this than I do, but it was, from what I hear, it was one of the cannabis stores that had a bunch of products stolen from them with garbage bags, guys with guns tied them up or something like that. I don't know. That's what I read, but I only briefly read that. So maybe Mary Jane knows more.
Okay, so are you speaking about the one that happened in Durham region?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a common misconception. I had somebody in Belleville, the city I live in, actually wrote an article about this, and I said, this was one of the first things that I had read within his article that was a false statement. Was that it was one of the licensed cannabis dispensaries in Ontario. Well, we don't have licensed cannabis dispensaries.
That's right. You guys only have the illegal ones. Yeah.
So first of all, there's your first incorrect fact. What it was it is a licensed legal grow. They didn't state whether it was an ACMPR or whether it was a licensed producer.
Oh.
However, Stephen, you know as well as I do, if you get an ACMPR license or if you get the licensed producer license, you have to make certain take certain precautions to make sure that you are protected. So that way, if something like that were to even be a potential, that it doesn't get to the situation that it was. Like this article that the gentleman had wrote was trying to say that my city should not, or that we should opt out, basically, from having.
They're politicizing it. They're politicizing it.
Well,
here's politicized
for madness, right? It's going to be dangerous. Look at what happened out there. Well, my question to him was, do you shut down every bank because one bank gets robbed? Like, what about corner stores? Do you do that with those? And
no, where would they get their cigarettes from?
Well, then it was even worse. He then started going on about how police officers cannot consume cannabis and then work. So if they're going to service calls where people are consuming cannabis, and they're going to get secondhand high, and then they're not going to be able to work.
You're not saying that there's fake news as it relates to cannabis industry, are you, Marijane? Come on, that can't exist. People wouldn't do that.
We wouldn't be here, right? This is why I do what I do, is I try and educate people and say, no, that's not right. But I like to listen to other people's opinions, and sometimes my judgment has changed based on other people, convincing me of certain facts. So if somebody disagrees with me, I say, bring it.
Right. Yeah, I brought up another article. It's the Ontarians could be waiting weeks for legal weed. Here's how Doug Ford's government has screwed up legal cannabis. So what is Mr. Ford doing?
Nothing, pretty much. Sorry, Mr. Ford.
I don't apologize. He's probably getting high right now.
Yeah, so basically, they're trying to put out the black market, which I like to call the craft cannabis market, because that's basically what they are. They're just small craft growers that are trying to make it in the industry. And currently,
awesome
we have absolutely no cannabis that we can get from the government. We have no cannabis that we can get from the craft growers because they tell us it's illegal. But yet they're the ones with all the cannabis. Like Stephen was saying, there's no shortage there.
Yeah.
They've been prepared for this for a while. We knew what was coming.
Right. Now, in terms of some of the larger growers, are they developing certain strains? Or are they just more volume driven? What's the quality of the actual cannabis that's being produced there by the legal grows?
Okay, so I can speak from what I've never seen inside a licensed producer facility, other than the massive pictures, right? The sheer size of the greenhouses and the grows. And I myself, I had 5 plants at home, and I got a thrip infection, or whatever you want to call it. I got thrips in my garden, and So basically, it was too late in the flowering stage. I couldn't treat it. I had to get rid of it all. So basically, all those months of growing that I had were gone, totally lost. So if that was on a massive scale, I couldn't even imagine the crop loss, first of all. And then I wonder, I had 5 plants, and it took me about a month to figure out I even had thrips. Could you imagine if I had 500? Or what about 5,000? Would I be able to check all 5,000?
Wow.
I'll give you a quick hilarious. Well, it's actually super sad, but it was hilarious when he first told me. So I've mentioned Delta 9 a couple times earlier. That's because they're Winnipeg, and I've put them through their ringer, and that's why I mentioned them. John Arbuthnot, who's the CEO of Delta 9, told me one day about a story something that happened at the production facility. They were working on creating like extracts for research purposes and creating CBD oils and things like that. They had $100,000 worth of oil, like full spectrum plant oil. Nice, and it was made from one of those CO2 machines or the nitrous or whatever, right? So it's non-solvent, right? It's all cool, fancy machine, like medical grade. But here's the thing: they had to throw it out. Had to throw out $100,000 worth of oil. You know why? Because the machine that fed it out of the machine into like a trough that put it into a container, they had an extra like piece like made for it, right, to have a little more spout and for basically to fit their production needs. Well, it turns out that a little bit of the solder in the weld had some lead in it, and it was leaching out from the heat of the extract. Okay, so so it was just those little tiny things can just fuck up so much stuff. So I really give licensed producers as much shit as they've done to the community in the past. Some of them are really ethically inclined, and some of them are just mom and pop shops that are now corporations, right? Like you got to start somewhere, right? Just because you got 100 employees doesn't make you a heartless corporation. It just means you're employing people in your neighborhood, right? Well, I'm just saying, like, I mean, the licensed producers got a broad brush, and some of them have been heartless assholes to the community. They've raped patients medically. They've given us shitty product. They've done all these other kinds of things, right? Employed people that have persecuted us, like that kind of stuff. And some of them are actually pretty decent, but you can't say they're all fucking bad, because that's not fair. Because you know what? Lots of people like Mary Jane or me or lots of people in Canada's community, if we had the opportunity and the funds and the resources to be a licensed producer, we probably would be.
Yeah,
So it's kind of hypocritical to shit on all of them. If we had a chance to be them, we would be one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, so it's. Yeah, so I give them a lot of credit where credit's due. They are producing a lot of pot, but like Mary Jane mentioned, they know how much pot they need, and they know that that's going to be having to keep coming out with more supply. And right now, a part of what they're doing is supply management, because they have to have some supply, but somewhere. If they run out completely, then they look like they failed, right? So they can have X amount of grams at X amount of price, because they only have so much. But once they have more weed, they can charge a lower price for it, because they're not going to be running out. I don't know. I don't know. I've got an Asper degree in business, so I don't know. This makes super sense to me.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I completely agree. That's one of probably my biggest fears as far as the industry and the growth is that I don't want there to be a Philip Morris of cannabis. I would like for it to stay grassroots, stay with individuals, mom and pop shops. I think those things are just so healthy for the business model. So I hope that never evolves too much, where you have like a conglomerate of 3 or 4, or worse yet, the big pharma takes over some of that space as well. I think that's another concern. But what are you guys going forward? What are the hot buttons? What are the hot topics in Canada as far as the legalization and the way forward? Where does the future go for Canada as far as is it more dispensaries? Is it more grows? And you said that opportunities are potentially there for individuals, but you better come with a big wallet. Or a big purse. Sorry, Mary Jane. I don't want to stereotype or whatever you carry.
That's snap, man. Hey, a man bag could be anything, right? I mean, I'm a Merce, right?
Yeah. Bigger man purse. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, man. I think Mary Jane's right, though. You got to have the opportunity, right? You got to be able to get in there, right? And you can't do that without resources.
Absolutely. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I know that you guys are also doing some work. I want you guys to plug also, because you guys are involved with some other things. Mary Jane, do you want to talk a little about your radio program? Share how people can listen in. The 420 radio show, correct?
Absolutely, yeah. It's you can find us online at www and then the numbers 420radio.ca. We are live every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. Eastern. This week, actually, we have a couple exciting guests. They're finishing off the conversation of last week, because it was very technical when it comes to growing and CBD strains, and it's like super in depth. So You'll have to probably listen to last week's too, but
Yeah.
I want to give a plug out to the Canadian Therapeutic Cannabis Partner Society. I know that's a mouthful, so we just call it the CTCPS for short. And they are based out of no problem. They're based out of Belleville, out of BMA Hydroponics, actually. So they will be able to help you if you need help finding a doctor, if you need a license to grow, and then they'll help you with all the stuff you need to grow. So they're super knowledgeable.
Right. Right. Are you also doing anything with edibles up there at all, or?
Most of the edibles I do for myself. I teach other people how to make their own butters and how easy it is that they can do it at home. As for like selling and the whole retail aspect, there's just too many rules when it comes to food alone, not even just cannabis, just like the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. I don't even want to get started on that. So, yeah, I just do it for fun and for friends.
Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Very fun. Steven, what's up with you? What else you got going
on? Big thing is HempFest. HempFest Cannabis Expo 2018 Winnipeg is November 3rd and 4th. RBC Convention Center. I'm your MC. Come down. It's gonna be a good time.
So you said this November, that's right around the corner. So you're literally like less than a week away.
Yeah, a week and a half. Yeah.
Awesome.
Pretty pumped, man.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So and then also hey.
Hi, wife.
Hi. She joined us the last time. She's gonna join us today as well?
Yep, she's here. Here for the end again.
Yes.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. Good part. Hey, Kristen.
Hi. How's it going?
Remember, babe, there's no rules.
Except for the rules I have to follow because I'm about to go to work. So
those are rules. Yeah. Those are rules.
No getting high right now.
Yeah.
After.
Very good. So, Chris, it's good to see you, and I really messed up on
that video, and I no longer have a job.
Oh yeah, sure.
Oh.
No, Kristen, it's good to see you.
Good to see you, babe.
Oh, thank you. You too.
Yeah. Well, excellent. Well, I want to thank Marijane, Kristen, Steven. Thank you guys for joining us today. Any other closing thoughts, and share your Twitter handle so people can follow you on Twitter.
Sure, you want to go ahead, Steven?
You go first.
Okay, so you can just find me at Marijane, Marijane Baker at Twitter, and pretty much anywhere else, Instagram. Throw a 420 on the end if you can't find me, or just Google me. But if you're I will say, if you're looking for me this weekend in person and you're around Toronto, I will be at Weedstock at the Cannabis Living Expo, the International Center, helping my wonderful friend Mel from Mellow Moments. Woo-hoo! She is launching her jewelry this weekend. She makes cannabis infused jewelry. It's super cool. You should definitely come check us out.
Awesome.
Badass.
Cool.
Those are super cool jewelry, by the way. I saw one of the rings. Awesome.
I know, right?
Yeah, super cool.
And Steven, your Twitter handle's at Steven.
At Steven Stairs. Steven with a V, Stairs, same as you fall down.
Awesome. Very cool.
Yeah. And same thing with Instagram, and everything else is virtually the same thing.
Well, I really appreciate you guys jumping on. Let's do this again. I really enjoy these conversations. A lot of fun. I also read here recently where Mexico is really considering following Canada's lead to legalize. So that potentially could be pretty darn interesting. And then that would be no choice for the United States to do something. But anyway, so please, with our 420 listeners, please like, share, subscribe. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. This has been CJ with another Rogue 420 interview. Steven, Marijane, Kristen, thank you all so much. Really appreciate it.
Big up, CJ. Thanks.
See ya.